The unsurpassed, profound, and wondrous dharma is rarely met with even 100,000 million kalpas. Now we can see and hear it, accept and maintain it. May we unfold the meaning of the Tathagata's truth. The unsurpassed, profound, and wondrous dharma is rarely met with even in 100,000 million kalpas. Now we can see and hear it, accept and maintain it. May we unfold the meaning of the Tathagata's truth. The unsurpassed, profound, and wondrous dharma is rarely met with even in 100,000 million kalpas. Now we can see and hear it, accept and maintain it. May we unfold the meaning of the Tathagata's truth.
Good morning, everyone, here in the Zendo and in the Zumdo. Today is Sunday. It is the last day of the winter practice period, the last day of the session, the week. For the winter practice period, it's the last winter practice period in the Zendo. The new Zendo is like right there. I can see the roof. It's a real thing. It's a real thing. We're trying to think. It might be the last Zazen. Clouds is coming in April. They'll probably be in here. Certainly the last Hokyoji retreat in the old Zendo. And I've been coming here now for almost 20 years. I remember coming here accidentally on purpose. Jim here. That's when we first met, and I remember we were still doing meals in the Zendo. We came for Great Sky. And you would hang your bowls here on the hooks, and you had meal boards, and it was, if you had never seen it before, it was almost kind of magical, like, except for all the Zazen. Funny story, when I came to that first session, I had never sat Zazen before. I just sort of came to a Buddhist Zen retreat on a lark. I had read Brad Warner's blog post about it from the previous year and said, oh, maybe I'll go to that. And I had practiced in the Tibetan tradition, and Zuiko said, oh yeah, sure, come. It'll be fun. And it was fun. At least I've been coming back for 20 years. And certainly at that point, I never would have imagined that I would be here giving a Dharma talk. That is for sure. That is for sure. It's hard to sometimes in the past look forward to where you've been. Sometimes, in hindsight, everything makes sense, but it certainly doesn't going forward. Over this practice period, we have been talking about the Hachi Dainin Gaku, the 8 qualities of great beings. It is a fascicle by Dogen from the Shobogenzo, and we've been kind of, I don't know how closely we've been hewing to this, but maybe in the first week, but Kosho Uchiyama Roshi's commentary, there's a book on the 8 qualities. And I won't keep you in suspense. The 8 qualities are having few desires, knowing when we have enough, appreciating serenity or equanimity, diligent effort, not losing sight of the true teachings, concentrating on meditative absorption, practicing wisdom, and not engaging in useless argument. So this week, and this is a little bit of a highlight reel for those who were here this week, I sort of took this from 2 ends in my previous Dharma talk. We talk in the Tibetan tradition, they talk about wisdom and compassion being the wings of the Garuda bird. So you need both or the bird doesn't fly. Dogen says that these 8 qualities are each contained in each other, so there are actually 64. And I sort of think of it as sort of an interwoven tapestry. that we can pull on one of the threads of these 8, and the other ones kind of come along for a ride. And I sort of pulled on the wisdom string, and then I kind of pull on a compassion string or ethics string. So for the wisdom string, we look at 6 and 7 are practicing meditative absorption, shamatha, and 7 wisdom. And these are really, this is just a very traditional formulation. This is just vipassana and shamatha. And you see these through traditions. They talk about these 2 kinds of practice, but in Zen, we don't really break it down that way. So this is interesting. Dogen is sort of taking a traditional approach to talking about these things, but he doesn't normally do that. It's because Zazen, Shikantaza specifically, are vipassana and shamatha at the same time. I should say it the other way, shamatha and vipassana at the same time. So they bring both together. And the funny thing that I'm almost certain that Dogen did on purpose is that the word for vipassana and shamatha in Japanese are shikan. And then you have shikantaza, but it's just a homonym. They're different characters. So I think he did it on purpose. He did it on purpose. So we spent a lot of time reading these, and when I talked about these, I sort of he's got these 8 qualities, but they're just in the Shobogenzo. Like there's the rest of the Shobogenzo. And so when we need to think about, or we can think about wisdom or meditative absorption, or the both, we can think about, well, from a practical point of view, the instructions for doing this, actually, that's Fukan Zazengi. So we can read Fukan Zazengi, and we know how to, we know the basic practice. We read it every night. For, I guess, what you would say he's getting at, what is he getting at? What is Dogen like? What does he think wisdom is, where it is? We have Genjo Koan and Uji, being time. Which, by the way, there will be a study group starting in March, Saren, for Uji, for being time. So we can that's the string we can pull on. So then so the only way this makes sense, though, is I have to tell a story that they already know about my brother. So I always call coming here going to Buddhist camp, because it's hard to describe what you do to Muggles. And one time he's like, so when one of the monks reaches enlightenment, what happens? Do they burst into a cloud of glitter? And you just sort of, so there's a number of things there I'm trying to process. Besides the laughing, there's like, okay, so does my brother think that there's some Buddhist camp I won't come back from because I burst into a cloud of glitter? And then there's like work period. Like during work period, do we sometimes have to sweep somebody up? We send them back to their loved ones. He dropped off body and mind. Here's the glitter. And it was just really funny when he said it. But more seriously, we think enlightenment is like that. On some level, we think enlightenment is like that. And so we find it very difficult to believe Dogen when he says that you are already enlightened, that practice enlightenment to really get at these things in Genjo Koan. And Uji are hard for us to realize, no pun intended, because we don't believe. It's been built up. Like, in the Tibetan tradition, when you're fully enlightened, you get like a rainbow body and like all these wonderful things happen. And so I think that can be an impediment. So Dogen is trying to, I think, correct these mistaken ideas about what enlightenment are and therefore what practice is. And this sort of comes down to a few things that he is he's trying to get at. Myths about enlightenment that get in our way. That self and the world are fundamentally separate. So because we feel like strangers in the world. Like we don't fit, we don't belong. And so this weird thing, we need to make friends with the world, with our lives. But there's always coming from our side. The world has always been our friend. And so the question is, can we do that? Can we make friends? Can we make friends with all of it? So in the Upada Sutta, Ananda, always the fall guy to Shakyamuni's, his Stan and Laurel. I forgot. I'm not sure which one's Stan, which one's Laurel. Ananda says, "Sir, good friends, companions, and associates are half of the spiritual life." And the Buddha replies, "Not so, Ananda, not so. Good friends, companions, and associates are the whole of the spiritual life." So I would add to that, we change a little bit, making friends, discovering that the world is already your friend, is the spiritual life. The other thing Dogen wants to disabuse of is the idea that enlightenment is a special state added on top of ordinary life. It's not. It's that close. I have a pet peeve. I have a lot of pet peeves. I have a problem with pet peeves. I don't like it when people use the word transcendence because it is immanent. I don't like absolute and relative because it makes it seem like absolute is better than relative. And I'm not sure I like emptiness or Buddha nature anymore. That's a different story because it sets up bad expectations. And it's difficult then to believe that Zazen is practice enlightenment. If we continue to hold on to these romantic and idealized notions of what awakening are. I can't find the source of the quote, but it's generally, Dogen says, enlightenment is intimacy with all things. And it then is also that not knowing is most intimate, right, from the koan. And this can happen because we are of the world. We're not simply in it. We can be out of harmony. We can be tone deaf to what's going on, but we're still same. Now I'm going to forget them. I was going to say life has a different love language, and we have discovered life's love language. And the 5 love languages are, I looked this up, giving gifts, words of affirmation, physical touch, acts of service, and quality time. And if yours differ from your spouse's, Buddha help you. So that's a challenge in our house. The third myth is that practice comes first and enlightenment comes later. We often talk Zazen is goalless. Well, it isn't because the important shifts in realization are not under our direct control. This is why words won't do it. It's not something we can know, it's only something we can meet. We can't treat it like a project. So that brings us back to the other 8 qualities. Looked at from the wisdom side, then, having few desires is what we practice in Zazen. We don't have a desire for a goal or something going on. Knowing when enough is enough is that Zazen is enough. We don't need something else. We can just sit there enough. Just sitting is enough. We appreciate the serenity and equanimity of whatever's happening, even if it's not serene. Diligent effort, we keep to the method. Don't lose sight of the true teaching. And my favorite in Zazen, don't engage in useless argument with yourself while you're trying to do Zazen. Let's stop the discursion. Thoughts arise, that's what brains do. They just pop out of your subconscious. It's not in your control. But the conscious mind doesn't have to engage with them. So let's pull from the other end. So we talked from the wisdom side. Now we're going to pull from the compassion side. I think more broadly, though, this is just ordinary life. Compassion, ethics. I think it's just a bigger picture of your ordinary life. Most of us who grow up in, broadly speaking, Abrahamic traditions get a little, our hackles are raised when we hear a lot of thou shalts and thou shalt nots. And these certainly seem like thou shalts and thou shalt nots. Thou shalt not have many desires. There's a desire, don't have it. Enough is enough. When do I know? Well, maybe enough is enough. But knowing when enough is enough, not engaging in. So we want to look at this a different way. Instead of asking what desires can I get rid of, we can ask, how do I relate to my wanting? So few desires then becomes having fewer compulsive desires. There are things we want, it's perfectly legitimate. What's important then is that we notice when wanting comes from anxiety, status, identity building. I want to be a better person. Things would only be better if. And then, the old deep subconscious one, which is I need to fill this gaping hole in my soul with fill in the blank. We talk in the morning about our ancient twisted karma. Greed, hate, and delusion. If our wants come out of those, then we're going to experience difficulties. Instead, we want our wants to come out of being alive, feeling alive, curious, and creative, rather than frantic and empty. If nobody knew you could do it, and so the example I was giving was learning Spanish. I'm trying to read. Each of these was an hour, so I'm trying to shorten them down. If nobody knew you could do it, you had that skill. If nobody saw you do it, would you still do it? Is it coming out, If you don't get accolades for doing it one way or another, even if you're doing things from other people, if you're doing it out of ignorance and fear, then can be attachment there to the result. I need accolades. I need, somebody needs to recognize that I sacrificed. Number 2, contentment. This is just basic existential okayness. I kind of talked about this before, looking at it the other way from making friends with your life. You can want to learn, improve, or create, and it just has to be okay if it doesn't work out. We want ambition, but without inner poverty. We want to be able to work toward goals without being at war with our current life. So, existential okayness. You're stuck with it all, so you might as well make the best of it. Delighting in serenity becomes protecting our attention. And in the 21st century, this mostly means not letting our attention be stripped mined by notifications, outrage, and dopamine traps. Valuing quiet as a necessity. Now and again. Walks, no phone time, being present. There are books, the people who were involved, and I'm sorry to say I was for a long time, in creating these algorithms know they're horrible and they won't let their kids use them. So they are hacking the worst parts of our biology. It's okay to be ambitious then, but guard your nervous system. Diligent effort becomes steady craft instead of grind culture. I just really like the idea of being a craftsman or a craftsperson. And just, I think that's one of the things maybe that sometimes we just delight in seeing things well made and when they're made. And I think actually this is going to make a comeback with AI. People are talking about, like, not only do we want to see the end result, but we want to see how it was made. We want to see the provenance of it. So that just means showing up regularly, favoring consistency over intensity, treating learning as practice and not as self-optimization all the time. The tech bros have kind of taken over this idea. Carol Dweck came up with the idea of the growth mindset, where you focus on the process instead of the result. You embrace challenges, you're persistent in the face of setbacks, effort is essential, and you find inspiration in others rather than, like Roosevelt said, comparison is the thief of joy. It's like, oh, they got that. I'm such a schmuck. It's like, oh, they did that. I can too. And then you can share your morning routines. You get up at 5 and do your ice bath. So say no to the hustle and yes to devoting yourself to something real. Right mindfulness is situational awareness. And I like that better than intention. I don't know, some words have gotten so overused. Mindfulness is another one I don't like anymore. It's like, oh, if you were more mindful, it's like, mindfulness is not a omniscience. It's just attention to what's happening right now. This is knowing what you're doing and why, not just being lost in endless scrolling. Not being on autopilot with your time, your media, your money, your relationships. Queen Victoria is said to have said on her deathbed, and I wish I could be so witty, at that moment, I would trade all of my possessions for a moment of time. And she had a lot. Catch yourself when you're about to act out reactively. So we're not, I'm spiritual, not religious. Don't sleepwalk through your life. The Stoics had something to say about this as well. Seneca writes, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it. Life is long enough, and a sufficiently generous amount has been given to us for the highest achievements, if it were all well invested. But when it is wasted in heedless luxury and spent on no good activity, we are forced at last by death's final constraint to realize that it passed away before we knew it was passing. And so it is, we are not given a short life, but we make it short. And we are not ill-supplied, but wasteful of it. Life is long if you know how to use it." Or, as Hunter S. Thompson said, "Life should not be a journey to the grave with the intention of arriving safely in a pretty and well-preserved body, but rather to skid in broadside in a cloud of smoke, thoroughly used up, totally worn out, and loudly proclaiming, 'Wow, what a ride.'" I don't know if everything about Hunter S. Thompson's life is something we should emulate, but maybe just that. Maybe there's a middle way. Number 6, concentration is then the ability to do deep work, to be able to focus on the things we want to focus on. And in the current age, the distracted age, this is critical because if we want to put in that diligent effort, we need to be able to concentrate. And when we practice that, we can actually focus for sustained periods. So we can do the things we want to do, learn the things that we want. Zazen is one model. The others are things like deep work, flow, deliberate practice. Cal Newport writes about deep work. For me, wisdom has always sort of been really rooted in the Pali Canon and dependent origination. This causes that everything has causes, it's all causes and conditions. Sometimes you hear people talk about independent origin as being like everything is connected. And I think that's on this side of that, is that seeing how things connect. We want to be able to see how our actions do affect others, the planet, our body, our community, and not reduce life to narrow interest. And we talked about that this is hard. And so last time when I was talking about this one, I do want to stress, I'm not good at any of this. Like this is aspirational. But it's hard. We were talking about, so my husband and I, there are disagreements about recycling. So he definitely wants to recycle. Everything got to go in the recycle bin. Sometimes I'll throw something away. This has got to go in the recycling bin. And I keep reminding him, it's like, have you not seen the news? Almost none of this ends up recycled. It all ends up in India. It's like, let's put it in our landfill rather than theirs. So it's hard. And even with agriculture, it's like, it's because of modern farming, factory farming, eating meat is dicey, but at the same time, cows and other grazing, they can eat things we can't. They can go on land that we can't grow soybeans and corn on. And oh, by the way, growing just corn and soybeans is destroying the environment. And oh, when we plant those fields, they are, chemically scorched with the plowing. All those bunnies and squirrels and birds and everything are, killed and plowed under. And it can be a little bit disheartening, but we just got to do the best we can. And then number 8, avoiding idle talk is reducing status games. Idle talk today, doom scrolling outrage, online dunking, reputation management, performative opinions, identity posturing. Instead, speak when it matters. Don't live in constant commentary mode about everything. Marcus Aurelius says you always own the option of not having an opinion. There is never any need to get worked up or in trouble your soul about things you can't control. These things are not asking to be judged by you. Leave them alone. But there's obviously gray areas though here, right? In this day and age. So my examples then were some things that are sitting on my burners. Wants to learn Spanish, and in case I have to flee the country, and botanical drawing. So wanting to learn Spanish. I'm not doing that out of greed or anything. I just think that when we travel, it should be nice to be able to speak the language. Right? I was an exchange student in Germany many years ago. And I spoke German fairly well at the time, now, but yeah, it's nice. So it's totally fine to want to learn Spanish if you're not doing it to prove, if I'm not doing it to prove I'm superior or more cultured, if I'm not using it to escape from my actual life, and I approach it with steady practice and real attention. Right? So if we're applying these ideas. And I was thinking the other day, like this is also Tenzo Kyokun. Like we can draw a line now well, it becomes a triangle, right? The 8 qualities, Genjo, Koan, and Uji, and then Tenzo Kyokun is over here. So there's kind of like maybe the rules or the guidelines and stuff, and here's kind of the philosophy, and then here's like Kenzo Kyokun is really the practical stuff about this. Like, this is how this comes into being. So then it becomes, so that way learning Spanish is not craving, but it's practice. And then for botanical drawing, and this is the one actually where I have the biggest problem, it's, if you engage with it, if it's not about self-image or wanting to be an artist, if I'm okay with being bad for a long time, so this is my stumbling block. There is an aphorism that says there are 100 bad paintings in you. The faster you get them out of them, the faster you get them out of you, the sooner you can get out your good paintings, which I think is just super funny. It's like it's like a different way of thinking about practice. You can think about everything. There's 100 bad songs in you before you get out a good one. And not turning it into an identity project. And again, this is, I think, from Dogen. I think on a very, very practical level, it's kind of okay to say I'm an artist. If you do these, if you engage, if you're okay with being bad, then it becomes an expression of being time and not grasping. So with Genjo, Koan, and Uji in mind, the 8 qualities aren't about removing desire so much as loosening the grip of a separate, defensive, self-centered identity. And when it loosens, your desires don't disappear, they become clearer, calmer, less neurotic. Yeah, kind of in sum, we can say then, on this end, live simply, stay grounded, protect your attention, practice steadily, see clearly, focus deeply, understand connection, and avoid pointless social games. That was on the mark. Are there questions from the Zoom though? You're muted, Yonan, if you're trying to say something. You're muted. Oh, okay. I thought you might be trying to say something. He's just talking to the camera. And anything less? I think everybody asked their questions. Thank you, Saren, for my card. All right. Well, we want to close? Oh, or not.
This idea of constant commentary, like here's our hero walking across the mud, and this is the furthest thing you can do to away from awakening. This is like creating a whole nother level. So when someone went over to Japan to study in a monastery, I was writing letters back and forth to this person, and the teacher came and said, no more letters. Because we're putting, this will be good in a letter. This is a little story I can write in a letter. This is creating more identity. And I thought, this is a really great teacher this person has, right? Because this is what I do with my email friends. I think, this is a point that I'll make to this person, and they'll appreciate that point. And it's like, it is piling up kind of identity instead of just engaging in a moment. But it's useful in a way. So I don't know about here's our hero walking across the mud.
Yeah, because at the same time, like, I love looking back at pictures of old vacations and stuff like that. So it's like, yeah, I guess you have to be clear about what you're doing in life. And we've been walking through a lot of mud here. That's why there's been a lot of mud at Hokyoji. Everything thawed sooner than normal. Anything else? All right.
May our intention equally penetrate every being and place with the true merit of Buddha's way.
Beings are numberless. I vow to free them. Delusions are inexhaustible. I vow to end them. Dharma gates are boundless. I vow to enter them. The Buddha way is unsurpassable. I vow to realize it. Beings are numberless. I vow to free them. Delusions are inexhaustible. I vow to end them. Dharma gates are boundless. I vow to enter them. The Buddha way is unsurpassable. I vow to realize it. Beings are numberless. I vow to free them. Delusions are inexhaustible. I vow to end them. Dharma gates are boundless. I vow to enter them. The Buddha way is unsurpassable. I vow to realize it.
What's next week? Do we know? Thank you, everyone. I think Genjo is next week. Genjo Conway. Have a great day.
See everyone. Take care.